I speak with people who are 10, 15, 20 years younger than me that are making an insane amount of money. And you're like, whoa, I personally love that. Welcome everybody to another episode of Uncensored Direct Marketing. Today I have Carolyn Santo. So Carolyn, you have, I don't even want to describe what you do because I think you've had 9 lives like a cat. You just transitioned to so many different things in your career. So I just want you to tell our audience a little bit about who you are and what brought you to direct response.
Well, it started many years ago. When I got out of college, I was less than 21 years old and didn't know what to do. So I got a securities license and got into the financial services industry and spent decades there, training people, helping people make decisions. And it got to a point where it was really heavy because people would literally say, here's my life, here's my family, these are the dysfunctional people, help me make decisions. And after doing that for decades, plus trying to help my husband with his business and run my own business, I got tired of that and said, I'm done being responsible for everyone in the world, and magically got drawn into marketing and copywriting. And the best part was I found out I'd already been doing a lot of marketing and copywriting. I just didn't know it at the time. It was like somebody said, oh, how do we promote this new thing? And I'd give them the idea and then they'd say, oh, great, let's do a seminar. Can you write it? And since I was the only writer in our group, I ended up writing, and then they'd say, oh, by the way, can you present it? So I got a marketing and direct response and copywriting training in the financial services industry, which, as it turns out, was the best thing. Because if you can talk to somebody about an investment, they can't see it, they can't touch it, they can't smell it, they can't test drive it. But if you can talk to them and convince them to do something intangible, selling or promoting or helping somebody promote something that is tangible or gives you results in less than like 5 years, is really easy.
Yeah.
So transitioning over was fun.
Well, I mean, kind of touching on that, I always say there's certain life skills that you get regardless of what industry, what job you're in, that just help transition you in any type of career. And for me, that is sales. Like if you can sell, it doesn't matter what you're selling, right? You're selling, you're good at talking to people, you're good at convincing people certain things. And sometimes, like I always say, I'm not a salesperson because I never try to convince people. I just provide evidence and hopefully you see it that way and then we move on. But sales or just even if somebody has some objections and you countering the objections, it's not that you're hard selling, you're just countering. So, being in the position that you were in, in the finance industry, like that's a hard thing. Like you're asking sometimes people for like hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not like, a $5 pair of socks or something. So I think once you kind of master that like everything else is kind of a little bit simpler in terms of the process of getting eyes and ears in front of things.
Right. Well, especially when it's their own personal money, there are so many emotions tied to your personal net worth. And a lot of what I did was estate planning for people who had a lot of wealth, but had children who couldn't handle the wealth.
Oh,
so
boy.
Then it's hard where you get into parenting and psychology. And sometimes the biggest effects of my advice would take place after the client died.
Oh.
So if you can sell something where they don't see the effects, but their children or their surviving spouse sees it, you can sell anything else.
Well, that's really interesting. And I mean, just building on your experience and going from industry to industry to industry. And to me, we've known each other just online through various groups and so forth. And we've spoken a handful of times. You have so much knowledge in so many things. And you seem to me like a very confident person in things that you say, which is, obviously an awesome skill. I'm wondering, balance knowing yourself, like who you are, what you can do, and what you're capable of doing versus, for example, I'll ask this question differently. For example, for me, I am a very numbers oriented person, a very factual person. I'm not a great writer. You know what I mean? So how did you transition to these different fields without feeling like maybe you're not good enough, like you're an imposter, like you're working with people obviously that, are younger than you, that have, a couple of years of experience, but maybe a lot more success. Like, how do you get into the room with these people, and how do you feel comfortable kind of interacting? Because although, you have a lot of experience, like in this specific marketing field, I guess if we were to kind of narrow down, it is shorter experience, right?
Right. Well, I think I have to go back to my parents and thank them for a good upbringing. When I was small, I was told you can do whatever you want as long as you're willing to put in the time and effort to prepare yourself. And I honestly believe that.
Okay.
Back when I was growing up, being 5 feet tall and Japanese in a very, very white society, that was maybe a little bit aspirational, but I believed it. And I went out and just said, oh, I want to go into this. And I ended up doing it. So then going into the marketing world, it all boils down to people and motivation. I mean, when you look at everything we do, whether it's personal or in business or in our jobs, it's what makes people do the things they do. And I've always said I have pretty good common sense. And thanks to my parents, I have a very strong moral compass. When it comes to ethical things or would I feel good about it, it's a black and white thing. But thanks to them, I have the confidence to stick by it. So when I'm asked my opinion, I give it based on experience and what I've observed about people and the psychology. But I feel comfortable saying, this is what I would do, or these are my top 2 suggestions. Not everyone's going to agree with me. Not everyone's going to like it. But overall, I found people are very open to getting a different opinion, and an opinion based on real life experience, as opposed to, this is what people say you should do.
So it sounds like if I'm to kind of summarize that, it sounds like it's confidence. Like you need to, even let's say, for example, for me, I speak with people who are, 10, 15, 20 years younger than me that are making an insane amount of money. And you're like, whoa, I personally love that. Cause I'm like, that's awesome. Like I wish I would have been smarter at that age. I wish I would have done this at that age and so forth. But there are a lot of people who can be intimidated, or maybe try to talk down on people and stuff like that. So the interesting thing is, whatever age you are, is being confident in, and also being able to take advice from other people, like not being scared, right? Like,
right.
We both interact with people in direct response, some are in their 20s and they're killing it. They're I'll use something that a lot of people, they're crushing it, so, so it's interesting. Like, first as a woman, first, like you said, as a minority, and then somebody with a lot of life experience, but less experience in this specific industry. I'm happy to hear that basically it's your upbringing, it's your confidence. And I think, is there anything specific that you think could help people with, let's say, building up that confidence?
I think what you need to do, and what intimidates people most, is taking the time to stay very quiet and figuring out yourself. A lot of people are so busy being active, they don't really know themselves. So for me, I know what my balance is. I know when to give up if I've put in a good effort and don't get the results I want. I know when to be confident without being like overly cocky and prideful. I am comfortable with myself changing direction, where some people, they view like, oh, what will other people think if I change direction, or if I shut that down, or if I do something different. So it's also being brave enough to confront yourself. Like, I know there's certain things I should do that I don't. And I have to push myself to get those things done. But it's very hard to sit by yourself, set a timer for like 20 minutes, and try to be as strict with yourself as you would be with any small child. Once you figure that out, you can manage yourself. You don't need people around you to tell you what is right, what is wrong. You'll know. And then when you know that, it's easy to conduct yourself in a way that you don't have regrets when you go to bed at night. It's like, yeah, I had a really good day. things may not have turned out the way I wanted to, but I did my best, and I'm content with that.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, having confidence and being silent and just being willing, being an eternal student, I guess, is important for all these things. Hope you found today's session valuable. If you have any questions for me or just want to connect, please feel free to visit my website, mariasparagis.com. That's mariasparagis.com. I'd love to hear what you're working on, so drop me a line on any hot button issues your business is experiencing. And remember, don't worry about failure. You only have to be right once.